You didn't bring anything? My aunt smirked, then passed out gift bags without our names. It was the kind of moment that should have rolled off my back. Instead, it split the whole family apart. Before we continue, please write in the comments which country you're watching this video from. Enjoy the story. It was a Sunday in early December, cold enough to see your breath, but warm enough to fake a smile. My mom and I pulled into the driveway of Aunt Cheryl's massive house, where a line of snowmen stood like guards and the smell of cinnamon drifted through the air. It was her annual pre-holiday family brunch, and as always, everyone was expected to show up, eat too much quiche, and act like nothing weird ever happened between us. We walked in carrying a homemade pie and a bottle of sparkling cider. Nothing fancy, but something. A gesture. Inside, the living room was already packed, uncles yelling over football, cousins laughing in groups, the fireplace crackling like a soundtrack to a fake perfect family movie. Aunt Cheryl swept in from the kitchen wearing her usual bright red blazer and that lipstick she always reapplies right before asking passive-aggressive questions. She gave us air kisses, one of those hugs that doesn't really touch you. "Oh," she said, scanning my hands. "You didn't bring anything?" I blinked. "We brought pie." She smiled, all teeth. "Right, pie." And then she turned, already moving on to the next guest, laughing too loudly and pretending we didn't exist. I glanced at my mom, whose face tightened just slightly before she forced a smile. "Let it go," she whispered. But it was hard to let things go with Aunt Cheryl. She always had this way of making you feel like you were either a disappointment or a threat. And today, something was off. The air was a little too still, the room a little too watchful. We made our way to the kitchen. The counter was covered in catered food. Nothing homemade, not even the famous breakfast casserole she always bragged about. Just foil trays and plastic tongs. It didn't feel like a brunch. It felt like a setup. Still, we played along, ate the lukewarm eggs, smiled when Uncle Don made another one of his jokes about millennials ruining America. Then, after we'd eaten, after the dishes had been cleared, Aunt Cheryl stood up and clapped her hands like a schoolteacher. "Time for something special," she sang. I tensed. That tone always meant trouble. She disappeared into the hallway and returned with a massive basket, overflowing with glossy red gift bags, each tied with gold ribbon. "I just thought," she said, eyes sparkling, "it would be nice to give a little something back to the people who've been so generous this year." Everyone oohed and clapped. I watched her begin to pass out the bags, calling names like she was announcing lottery winners. "Jason, for the patio furniture you helped me pick out. Miranda, for sending me those candles I love. Eli, for covering the wine last Thanksgiving." Each bag was full, bath bombs, candles, designer mugs, gift cards. I saw the corner of a Coach wallet in one. These weren't party favors, these were rewards. And then I realized she wasn't just handing out gifts. She was publicly scoring the family. One by one, she skipped over people, paused just long enough to be noticed. When she came near us, she glanced at me, smiled, and moved on. I stared down at my empty hands. No bag, no thanks. Just that smirk again, sharp and deliberate. My chest burned, not because I wanted a gift card to some overpriced home store, but because I finally understood what this was. This wasn't generosity. It was punishment. And I wasn't the only one who saw it. Across the room, my cousin Lacey's jaw had clenched. Her husband, Thomas, looked like he wanted to throw his plate. My mom just sat there, silent, eyes locked on Aunt Cheryl like she was seeing her for the first time. None of us got gift bags. But that day, we got the message. And everything changed after that. The silence that followed was heavier than anything the fireplace could warm. Aunt Cheryl finished her grand performance, her perfect red nails fluttering over the last gift bag like she was sealing some invisible contract. She glanced around the room, soaking in the applause from her chosen few, those with shiny bags at their feet and smug grins on their faces. The rest of us? We sat in this invisible circle of quiet, the ungifted. No one said anything, but everyone felt it. My cousin Lacey leaned in toward me, voice low. "Did you know she was doing this?" I shook my head. Thomas, her husband, was gripping his coffee mug so tightly I thought it might shatter. "She skipped us, on purpose." "She skipped a lot of people," I whispered. It wasn't just us and Lacey's family. My Uncle Rick and his wife were empty-handed. So were the Bensons, cousins from Cheryl's husband's side. That was already a good third of the room. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was selection. And then, someone broke the silence. "Wow," Uncle Rick said loudly, rising from his seat and clapping once, slow and sarcastic. "That was a lovely display of generosity, Cheryl. Really heartwarming." The tension cracked. All eyes turned. Aunt Cheryl, ever composed, placed a hand to her chest like she'd been startled by the applause. "Oh, Rick, it's just something fun. You know, a little appreciation for those who've gone above and beyond." "Above and beyond what?" Rick asked. "Spending money on you?" A few people chuckled under their breath. Someone coughed to cover it. Cheryl's smile thinned. "You know what I mean?" Rick took a step forward. "No, actually, I don't. I thought this was a family brunch, not a competition." "It's not a competition," she said, her voice tightening. "It's gratitude." "Funny," Lacey said from behind me, standing now too. "I didn't realize gratitude came with a receipt." That did it. Aunt Cheryl's entire expression dropped for just a moment, like the mask slipped. She opened her mouth to speak, but Thomas cut in. "You always do this," he said. "Every year it's some new game, some new way to divide the room. What is it this time? Favoritism by Venmo total?" That got a few laughs. Nervous ones. Tense. Cheryl turned toward the fireplace, suddenly busy rearranging a decorative pine cone display. "I'm sorry some of you are upset," she said over her shoulder, "but maybe if you contributed more, you wouldn't feel so left out." My mom stood. Now it was serious. She hadn't said a word all day, but when she stood, people noticed. "I brought a homemade pie," she said quietly, "just like I do every year." Cheryl didn't turn around. "And I drove your sister here," Mom added. "The one who just had knee surgery, who you didn't invite." That last part dropped like a stone. There it was, the deeper wound. Aunt Cheryl hadn't invited her own sister, my great-aunt who could barely walk, who always crocheted little snowflake ornaments for everyone every year, who never once showed up empty-handed in her life. Someone else muttered, "That's right. She wasn't even invited." Cheryl finally turned. "It's not personal. She's not well." "No," Mom said. "It's entirely personal." The room was no longer split by gift bags. Now it was split by truth. And people were choosing sides. Jake, the youngest cousin, stood up too. "I helped you move furniture this fall. Didn't see a bag with my name on it." One of Cheryl's chosen crew, Miranda, tried to step in. "Maybe this isn't the time." Jake cut her off. "No, I think it's exactly the time." People were standing now. Others were quietly gathering their coats, their dishes, their kids. The air was sharp, electric. Aunt Cheryl said nothing. She just sat down in her pristine white armchair, legs crossed, lips tight. She still had all the gift bags in a basket by her feet. The ones no one dared to open now. The gold ribbons looked cheap under the weight of the moment. And then my mom turned to me and said, "Go warm up the car," which in my family meant we're done here. As I grabbed my coat and headed toward the door, I caught a glimpse of the guest list posted on the fridge, written in perfect cursive, with names checked off. Some were circled in gold. Some had a red slash through them. We didn't even make the list. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about gifts. It was about control. and the cracks in the family were just beginning to show. The car ride home was dead silent. Mom gripped the steering wheel like it had insulted her. Her knuckles were white, jaw clenched, eyes locked on the road like every mile she put between us and Aunt Cheryl's house was another layer of armor. I sat beside her, holding the untouched pie on my lap. "It's still warm," I said quietly. She didn't answer. When we pulled into our driveway, she finally exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath for hours. We went inside and didn't even bother unpacking. Mom went straight to the kitchen, yanked the cling wrap off the pie, and cut herself a massive slice. Not even on a plate, just a fork. That told me everything I needed to know. "I should have seen it coming," she muttered between bites. She's been like that her whole life, always needing to remind everyone who's in charge. I sat across from her. "Do you think she's trying to push people away? On purpose?" She looked at me, and for a second I saw something deeper in her eyes. Not just anger, hurt, regret, history. "She doesn't push," she said softly. "She isolates. That's how she wins. Make you feel like the outsider in your own family and then call it your fault when you leave." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded, and we sat in the kitchen eating pie in silence. But that wasn't the end. The real unraveling began 2 days later. It started with a group text. One of those long family threads nobody really uses unless someone dies, gets married, or announces a new baby. Suddenly, it was very active. Lacey started it. "Hey fam, just a thought. Maybe next year we host brunch somewhere that doesn't come with a performance review?" The replies came fast. Thomas: "We can bring our own bags if it helps." Rick: "I'll only show up if there's an entrance exam this time." Jake: "I'll Venmo Aunt Cheryl $5 right now if it means I get a mug." Miranda: "Guys, this is childish." Lacey: "So was the gold ribbon ranking system." Uncle Don: "Wait, there was a list?" It exploded from there. Screenshots of the fridge guest list, photos of the gift bags. Someone even posted a video of Aunt Cheryl handing one to Miranda while saying, "Because some people still believe in tradition." Then came the phone calls, private messages, people choosing sides like it was a courtroom drama. Some defended Cheryl, claimed she meant well, that it was just her way of showing love. Others weren't buying it. And then the big twist landed. A screenshot from Cheryl's private Facebook group, one no one outside of the real ones had even known about. Lacey found it through her husband's cousin's wife. It was called "Family First, as long as they deserve it." Inside were months of posts, rants, rankings. Cheryl had been keeping score, literal scorecards based on family members' contributions, loyalty, and initiative. There were posts complaining about freeloaders, low-effort relatives, and holiday slackers. There were names, there were comments. My name was there. So was my mom's. So was Lacey's, Rick's, Thomas's. Next to ours, red X's. Beside Miranda and 2 other cousins, gold stars. And suddenly, it all clicked. This wasn't just a petty brunch or a passive-aggressive gesture. This was Cheryl's control mechanism, her way of ranking people's worth, of rewriting the rules of family to put herself at the top and quietly erase the people who didn't worship her for it. The thread went dead for a few hours, and then someone said it. "Rick, we need to talk, all of us, without her." A real family meeting, no gift bags, no ribbons, no hosts, just the people left behind. And we all agreed. Because suddenly, it wasn't just about Aunt Cheryl anymore. It was about the kind of family we wanted to be, and whether we were going to keep letting one person decide who mattered or take that power back. The meeting wasn't held in anyone's home. No one wanted the power shift to start in a place someone could claim as theirs. So we picked neutral ground, the local community center. Beige walls, fluorescent lights, cheap folding chairs. Nothing about it said holiday warmth. And maybe that was the point. No show, no table settings, no manipulation, Just chairs in a circle, and everyone who hadn't gotten a gift bag. There were 13 of us, 4 branches of the family tree. Lacey and Thomas came with printed screenshots. Rick brought a notebook filled with scribbled questions. Jake brought donuts. Because apparently, emotional damage pairs well with glazed sugar. We sat quietly at first. A few awkward nods, some shifting in seats. Then Rick cleared his throat and said, "I guess I'll just say what we're all thinking." Everyone looked at him. "I'm tired," he said. "Tired of feeling like I have to earn love from someone who's supposed to give it freely. Tired of being ranked like I'm in a game show. And I'm really tired of pretending that Cheryl's behavior is just her being Cheryl." Murmurs of agreement echoed around the room. Mom nodded. She doesn't think of us as family anymore. She sees us as assets or liabilities. If you don't serve her image or her comfort, you get cut. Lacey leaned forward. And the worst part? We let her do it. We've let her do it for years. Thomas added, "We all brushed it off. Every jab, every backhanded compliment, every time she made someone feel small. We kept showing up, smiling, handing over space in our lives to someone who weaponized kindness." He held up a photo, one of the gift bags. This wasn't about gifts. This was about control. And I think it's time we took our family back. That hit hard, not just because it was true, but because for the first time, we realized something. We didn't need Cheryl to be a family. We'd been circling around her for so long like planets to a sun, afraid everything would collapse if we moved out of orbit. But now we saw she wasn't the sun. She was the black hole at the center, pulling everything inward and calling it gravity. Jake, ever the quiet one, said, "So what do we do? Cut her out? Just never speak to her again?" It was a heavy question. Mom spoke first. "Number cutting her out means we're still making it about her. What if we just moved forward, built something without her in the middle? No punishments, no points, just family, on our terms." Lacey lit up. "We host the next brunch." Rick nodded. "We rotate hosting. No lists, no gift bags. Everyone brings what they can. Homemade or store-bought, it doesn't matter." Jake added, "And if someone forgets to bring anything, we feed them anyway. That's what families do." It wasn't a rebellion. It was a reclaiming. By the end of the meeting, we had a plan, one that didn't include Cheryl's rules, her rankings, or her approval. We agreed to send her a message, not to argue, not to shame, just a single photo. 1 week later, on the day she would have hosted the annual Christmas Eve dinner, we gathered at Rick's house. A potluck of mismatched dishes, folding chairs around a fire pit, hot cider in plastic cups. We took a group photo, everyone smiling, hands linked, together, and we sent it to her. No caption, no explanation, just proof that without the show, the structure, the judgment, we still stood, we still shared, we still mattered. She didn't reply. But the next day, she removed everyone from the Family First Facebook group, every last one of us. And somehow, that felt like peace. Because for the first time in years, we weren't waiting for her approval. We weren't performing. We were free. And the silence that followed? It was the kindest thing she'd ever given us. We thought that was the end of it. After Cheryl removed everyone from her Family First group, things went quiet. No texts, no calls, no backhanded holiday messages with forced emojis, just silence. And it was peaceful, for a while. The rest of us kept our word. Lacey hosted a spring brunch in her backyard. Rick organized a 4th of July cookout that somehow didn't end in a political debate. Even Jake, who used to skip everything, showed up early to help set up chairs. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments, old scars that surfaced in small ways. But there was laughter again. Real laughter, not the kind you force at a table where you feel like you're being judged with every bite you take. We were finally building something of our own. Then, One morning in late October, almost a year since the infamous gift bag brunch, I got a call. From Cheryl. My phone rang, and for a second, I just stared at her name. I didn't answer. But she left a voicemail. Her voice was quiet, controlled but thinner somehow. I'm cleaning out the house. Found something I thought you should have. I left it with your mom. That's all. Take care. That was it. No apologies, no explanations. Just that. When I told Mom, she didn't look surprised. She called me too, she said. Dropped something off this morning. She pulled a medium-sized box from the hall closet, wrapped in brown paper. No ribbons, no glitter, no gold stars. I sat down on the couch and unwrapped it slowly, not sure what to expect. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Some old, some newer. Family trips, holidays, birthdays, a few with Cheryl smiling, really smiling, not posing, not performing. At the bottom was a folder. Inside it, a list. Not that list. This one was handwritten, in a softer script, faded ink. At the top it said, "What I remember." Below were entries, moments, little ones. The time Lacey held my hand when I cried in the garage. Rick fixing the leak in my bathroom when I was too proud to ask. Your mom bringing me soup the night my husband left. Page after page, no rankings, no totals, just memories, just truths. There was one note with my name. You always looked at me like you knew I wasn't as strong as I pretended to be. I never said thank you for that. I felt something shift in my chest, something I didn't know I was holding. Forgiveness is a strange thing. Sometimes you fight for it. Sometimes you fake it. And sometimes it just shows up in a box on your doorstep when you least expect it. We didn't call her back. Not because we were angry, but because we understood. That was her way, her version of reaching out, a quiet gift. Not one that could be unwrapped or displayed, but one that said, I know I hurt you, and I remember who you were before that. Months passed. She didn't come to Thanksgiving. She wasn't invited to Christmas. But we left a chair for her anyway. Empty, unlabeled, no pressure, no guilt, just space. Because families aren't about who hosts the biggest event, or who brings the most expensive gift, or who keeps score. They're about who stays when it matters, who listens, who grows, and who forgives, even if they don't get an apology wrapped in a gift bag. This year, when we gathered for brunch, someone brought a box of blank name tags and handed them out. We wrote our names in marker, no rankings, no colors, just names, just people. And as I looked around at all the chairs filled with laughter, second chances, and real connection, I realized something. We didn't lose a family that day in Cheryl's living room. We found one. The kind that couldn't be boxed, ranked, or bought. The kind that stays, even when the gift bags are gone.